Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here then hi, my name is Miss Paris and I'm a newly qualified primary school teacher here in the UK. It has felt like a while since I have done a video and for that I apologise, but I've been busy and I would rather make good quality videos rather than rush it and just get it out for the quantity. So today's video is going to be kind of a lead on from my video on making your teacher training personal statement. This is kind of a hard video to time because interviews can go anywhere from October all the way to April. April is when I did mine, but I've actually heard people have their teacher training interview even further in the game than that, up to June, July. But for those of you who are ready, organised, and you have already submitted your statement, and you might even be having interviews after October half term, then this video is for you. If not, bookmark it, save it. I don't know how it works with YouTube. Save it, and then you can watch it again once it applies to you. This video is going to be about interview questions that you might be asked by your uni or your SCITT provider, whoever, but these are most likely going to be questions that you are going to be asked. Some will be catered more towards primary, some will be catered towards secondary, some will probably apply to both, but just will be slightly adapted because obviously secondary is a specific subject, etc. So I would recommend watching this all the way because you don't know what might be applicable to you. It is also a good way to generate as many ideas for possible questions as possible, and then maybe, obviously it depends what your kind of style is, but maybe put bullet point ideas for what you might answer to that, or maybe do a mind map, whatever works for you. I mean, let me know in the comments actually, I'd kind of be interested. But let's get started with the video, and good luck if this is you and you're watching this because you've got an interview coming up. You can do it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about, and this is not necessarily the first question they will ask you, however it is a legal requirement for them to ask you a question about safeguarding. So I'm going to put this one in first of all because guaranteed you will get a question about safeguarding. So the question around safeguarding might be said in different ways, but it will normally come in a potential scenario question. So what would you do if? What would you do if a child kept coming into school late, complaining of being hungry, looking dishevelled, or maybe smelling a little bit, or not having clean uniform, that kind of thing? They might say, what would you do if a child came up to you and said, Miss or Sir, can I talk to you? But you can't tell anyone else, that kind of thing. I'm going to say this right now, and I said this in my first teacher training interview video nearly a year ago. I'll put it in the link below. It is the most important thing that you could say with a safeguarding question. You need to make sure that you tell the provider that you would never keep it a secret, and you also need to tell the child that you can never keep it a secret, because you would always have to tell somebody else, be it, you know, another class teacher or the designated safeguarding lead. It is always important to send the message on because you don't know, this might be the missing part of a puzzle that kind of explains a whole journey of what this child has gone through, or it might be the first piece of evidence that might start a whole journey or a whole pattern of things that might be observed in this child. So it's really important to say that to the provider in those words, that you would tell the child that you cannot keep this a secret. There is also different ways in which you can report, but it is important to say that if you believe it is a cause for concern, it is important to report this. So whether it be on My Concern or CPOMs, or even if that school has a written paperwork system, whatever it is, if it's deemed important and a safeguarding concern, you must report it. So those are two things that you need to answer to potentially every single safeguarding question. So no matter what they say, make sure to have those two things in mind, because that will show that you really understand it. They might also ask, what does safeguarding mean to you? What do you think safeguarding means? Could you explain the responsibilities of safeguarding? So make sure you're kind of aware of what that definition means as well. It's something that you hear so often, but if you can't define it, then that question might be tricky for you, so it's worth looking into. Another question you might be asked, and this is more chronological order, this will probably be one of the first things they say to you, is about your personal attributes. So why do you want to become a teacher? Why do you think you would make a good teacher? What, for secondary school, what makes you interested in this subject? What makes you passionate about it? You might also be asked for your why. Why did you choose this as your chosen career? Why did you choose secondary over primary, or why did you choose this subject over another subject? In this scenario, you need to make sure that you sell yourself, but not to a point where they're kind of cringing or thinking, oh, this is so cliche. Really kind of dig personally and think, okay, I want to be a teacher because when I was younger I had an amazing moment with a teacher that really inspired me, or I've learnt through my degree that and that made me want to share the knowledge with others. Whatever it is, kind of, but be personal and don't be too cliche. Everyone's probably heard of, I want to be a primary school teacher because I like children and I want to teach them. Yeah, cool, but a bit boring. Think about your personal attributes, what makes you a good teacher, what skills do you have, and make sure to sell it, but not too much. Linked to this, but not kind of asking for personal analogies or experiences, might be the question, what makes a good lesson, what makes a good teacher, or what would you do to engage pupils that don't seem to particularly care about your subject, or in primary they might not want to be in the classroom, or they might have difficulties listening and sitting in one place. What would you do, or what would you define as a good lesson or a good teacher? For this, your answers can differ. I don't believe there's a right or wrong answer. However, you must always try and mention pupil progress. So if you say an outstanding lesson is a lesson where everyone is listening, everyone is behaving well, they all get their work done, but you don't mention pupil progress, then, I don't know, potentially they could have done a lot of work, listened really well, but from the beginning to the end of the lesson, they haven't learned anything or they haven't progressed in any way. So always just put the phrase pupil progress in there somewhere. You are probably also going to be asked a behaviour scenario. So for primary, they might say a different one, whether you're aiming for EYFS, Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, or they might do a very generic one. Secondary school, it's probably, although I might be wrong here, it will probably be around motivation. So say you're doing a subject that a lot of pupils might not like, especially if it's not their forte. How would you maybe deal with a child that is being disruptive because they don't want to learn, or they're kind of giving you attitude because they don't see the point in your subject? How would you deal with that? How would you deal with disruptive children, children that are not willing to do the work or refusing? What about children, and this is a tricky one, that was actually one of my kind of targets during my training year. What would you do for those children that aren't disruptive, that aren't outright refusing to do the work, but that are kind of sat there daydreaming, and we call that low-level disruption because they're not doing anything to disturb others, but they're not doing any of that work, and obviously that interferes with their progress. So what would you do if you have a constant daydreamer, or somebody that always seems focused and quiet but is actually never doing any work? Another question you might be asked is, tell us of a time when. Tell us of a time when you were really stressed. How did you cope with the workload? Tell us of a time that you observed a lesson and you thought it went really well. Why did it go really well? Or they might say, tell us of a time that you observed a lesson and it didn't really go well. Where did it go wrong? What could have been improved to make it a good lesson? It might also be not even linked to education and be, tell us of a time when you received criticism. How did you deal with it? What were your next steps? How did you react to it? What did you do to change it afterwards? All of these things are kind of questions that help them assess kind of your personality, your characteristics, how you will be in this whole teacher training process. Do tell the truth if you do have any faults, or say, sometimes I react to criticism badly, but I know that it's all for my own benefit, so I do try and react upon it afterwards. It just takes me some time to process, but afterwards I do make sure to reflect on what went wrong and change it next time. Then actually they will appreciate that honesty. If you make yourself sound like the most perfect person who's never been stressed, who always deals with criticism amazingly, then, I don't know, you're kind of setting a high standard for yourself. This question almost tripped me up in my interview, and it is, why did you choose us as a provider? And at the time I thought they were giving bursaries to primary. It did say on their website, but apparently it wasn't a thing. But I knew that you can't just mention money, so I kind of had to think back to what I remember from their website, because although I had researched, I'd also researched many others, and my memories of them were all kind of intertwining and getting confused. So make sure you do your research clearly for every provider that you apply to. This question is geared more towards secondary trainees because obviously you are only teaching one subject, so it's very specific, or you might have two. They might ask you about both. but it is, what are you reading at the moment? What are you aware of in geography in the news at the moment? Or what are you currently doing to make sure your subject knowledge is up to date? That links to my next question, and this applies to both secondary and primary. It's about what educational issues are in the news at the moment, or what is your opinion on ... So you need to be aware of what's happening in the news at the moment, particularly in education. With September 2021 entrance, I think you have a lot you could talk about. Obviously now you've got all this virtual learning things, you've got bubbles, you've got so many things that you can talk about. So really delve into a few different topics, write some bullet points about it, think about what your opinion is and kind of form one if you haven't already, so that you can kind of talk about it and it shows you are up to date with things. Okay, I'm aware that I've spoken really fast. I hope what I said makes sense. If you are kind of watching this and think, okay, that's not me yet, I still have to start my application, start my personal statement, go check out my personal statement video. I'll put a picture of it here and leave the link down below. If this is you and you are at the point of an interview or you are waiting to hear back, I wish you really, really good luck. Let me know if this video helped. Leave a comment down below, give it a like, subscribe. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers now, so it's really exciting and I would really appreciate it. And hit the bell if you would like to be notified next time I upload. Best of luck and I will see you soon. Bye!